Yeah.
So thanks very much for the introduction, and thank you very much for the very nice event today. So we make now a big switch from like energy, atomic energy. We make a big switch to again to pharmacy. So we make our company BioNxt Solution is about next gen drug delivery. So maybe first we start with our company. So I will introduce our CEO, Hugh Rogers, who is now joining us, and he gives us first an overview about the company, and then I will go on with some overview a little bit more about the science.
That's great. Thanks, Wolfgang. Thanks everyone for having us here. I got upgraded to a panelist there at the last minute, which is great. So BioNxt, there's some big ideas on this page, and then from being a leader in, let's say, next generation drug delivery and oncology, ultimately improving people's lives. Drill down a little bit further into our mission. Oh, sorry, Wolfgang, can we just stay on that first page? Yeah. And I want to talk about our vision, our mission, and our strategy just here at a high level before we dig into sort of individual products and our expertise. We are advancing thin film, primarily thin film sublingual products. We have transdermal technology as well, but we're focused on neurological and autoimmune diseases. We also have some chemotherapy delivery platform technology. And I think before we get into the details, I just want to talk a little bit about our strategy because, in terms of vision, mission, and strategy, I think it's really important to understand that most of the products we're working on are reformulations versus new drug discovery. So we're pursuing some very big opportunities in billion-dollar plus markets and targeting billion-dollar plus products, but our strategy is reformulation of already approved drugs into patented sublingual oral dissolvable thin film products. So I think this is really important to understand because it's a theme in terms of why we're doing what we're doing. And this is focusing on already approved drugs. They've been demonstrated safe and effective. And for this reason, it's a faster, cheaper, more predictable regulatory process. And I think that's it's why a small company can take all of these opportunities on. Can hop to the next one there. Yeah, Wolfgang, why don't you take this one on? This is in your wheelhouse.
Then I take over a little bit about our highlight technology. So as you already said, we have thin films. Our leading products are orally dissolvable films, and this is a very new technology in the pharma field. It is oral dissolvable film, and this is more like the size of a stamp, and it is directly dissolving in your mouth cavity. So we are focusing on matrix oral dissolvable films, which means that everything is included in one polymer matrix. So we have our active, we have all our excipients, we have all our polymers, everything is combined in one matrix. And then we have everything connected together, and then you can apply this, and it has huge advantages compared to like normal oral application of a product. So I think one of the biggest ones is the higher bioavailability for most of the compounds because you avoid a first pass effect. So first pass effect means that when you apply a normal, like a tablet, it always is the active is reduced, for example, by degradation in your liver. But when you have it oral dissolvably, it is directly going sublingual. It can also be buccal, but most of our films are sublingual films, and it directly goes into your bloodstream, which means that especially for ingredients which have low bioavailability with normal oral tablets, our films have improved bioavailability, which then reduces for sure your costs, but also reduces the side effects massively. So here is a little overview about this dosage form. So I already talked about a little bit, but I can also say that the advantage further is that it's also can be used for high potent drugs, which is also one focus of our company. So high potent drugs means these are active ingredients which have low dosages. So let's say below 10 milligrams, so 1 to 5 milligram. And with that actives, you have to control this dosage very, very precisely. Because if you go out of this therapeutic window, which means if your dosage is not controlled precisely, then you get sometimes really massive side effects, or the drug isn't even working if you are too low. And this we can control with our ODFs, and with them, we maybe go directly to our pipeline. There you can see also a lot of high potent drugs. So maybe you can talk about a little bit about the pipeline, what is coming up next.
Sure, thank you. And maybe I'll just back up a little bit in terms of how we got here. So BioNxt is a Canadian-based company, but we acquired several years ago a German-based thin film technology company based not far from Munich. And I think it's important, this is now one of the only existing independent, let's say thin film, how would you say, small, nimble, thin film R&D shops left in Europe. And it's opened up a whole world of opportunities. Going back several years ago, an oncologist from the Ukraine who was displaced during the invasion connected with us, and it's led to a number of products and opportunities and patents. And I just wanted to sort of lay that out there in terms of how the company got here, because you're looking at a screen of 5+ opportunities. There's a dozen more behind this, and it's a really interesting sort of story in terms of how we got here and why the opportunities are available. But starting at the top, this is our lead product. And if you're familiar with the company, you've seen a fair bit of news on this. It's very exciting. BNT 23001 it's a thin film cladribine product. So cladribine is sold under the name brand and registered trademark Mavenclad by Merck. It's a $1 billion plus product. So it's a blockbuster drug. It is coming off patent in the next few years. We have a sublingual formulation it's already been recognized by the European Union. We expect a patent very soon. I think, Wolfgang, what would you say within the next several months?
So yeah, regarding patents, we came back to this later, but for so in Europe it will be grant. We already have the intention to grant, so it will be grant until end of this month.
That's right. So our lead product, national level patents are underway, already issued in Eurasia. This has led, as our lead product, we have a number of related products. So the next one, myasthenia gravis, is a very similar indication. So it's another neuromuscular, neurodegenerative autoimmune disease, also to be treated with cladribine. As you work down the list, several cladribine products, which is excellent in being able to scale our lead product, and then moving into a couple of other opportunities that we'll have some news out on shortly. We can't talk too much about the indications, but I think what you see here is, when I talked about strategy in terms of faster, cheaper, lower risk, we're able to scale these opportunities for relatively low cost compared to, let's say, a more traditional novel compound regulatory and development pathway.
So maybe we start then with our leading product, which is now the cladribine product. So as you already told, we are done with all the preclinical work for this product. So currently we have one final animal study which is running, which will just give us information about how high our bioavailability really is. So we expect much higher than the originator, but we will then can prove this with our animal study. And with that, animal study, we will then go over to our clinical study, which is also already in preparation, but we wait for this first step. So the cladribine is, as you already told, so it's a very it's a high potent drug which is used for multiple sclerosis and also some other indications. And we then developed a formulation already so we have our oral dispersible film, and then we developed a formulation which is perfectly designed for the cladribine. And this already proved in first preclinical trials and also animal trials proved very high robustness of the cladribine, and it also proved very high bioavailability. And with that, we are doing now we were preparing the clinical human study. And for sure, we also in a partnership to prepare the scale up of the product, because we will, after the clinical trials, we have then to produce more for the registration, and therefore we are now working also on the scale up of the production. And with cladribine, it's also that the cladribine has different indications which it can be used. So we have cladribine, which is used for MS, but in nearly the same product with some dosage changes are also used for other neurodegenerative diseases like MG or also LN. And yeah. So this is our these are our now upcoming products. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, I didn't want to get too. We have our lead products and several sort of derivative related products in different indications. I just want people to understand that because we're a platform technology, we have a number of opportunities that are scalable. Our core competency is sublingual, essentially sublingual drug delivery systems and high potency chemotherapy drugs. And there's a major trend in pharma to repurpose chemotherapy drugs for autoimmune diseases. And for people who aren't so familiar with autoimmune diseases, this is often like neurodegenerative diseases or autoimmune. There can be autoimmune, let's say, related issues around, for example, transplant technology, immunosuppressants. And because they're repurposed chemotherapy agents, they're still usable for some cancers. So there's a huge opportunity here using our platform for a number of indications. There's anyone who's watching our news right now saw that just a few days ago we announced a deal in this space. It's sublingual. It's a chemotherapy agent being repurposed for the immunosuppressant transplant, primarily transplant market, but the drug is also still used as a chemotherapy oncology treatment. So it's not in this deck right now. Oh, it is actually.
Yeah.
There's a reference to it here. And we've been working on that deal for some time and coming together now. So that's another family of patents. We'll say this, our lead product for cladribine is a family of patents. So it's an umbrella patent for autoimmune neurological disorders using chemotherapy drugs. This is another related patent, primarily as immunosuppressants. So I'll let Wolfgang get into that. He's actually our patent expert. So I'll let you move through here.
Yeah. So okay. I think we came to the patents later, but I can also give you a short introduction now. So I think what is really a key point of our patent strategy is that we have different platforms which we developed in-house, and we also have a patent for a platform which we can use for very different drugs. So we have our platform protected by patent. This is already granted. And then we have the we can file different patents for the different applications. And for example, for the cladribine product, we did this already, and therefore we are quite far ahead. So it is already granted in some jurisdictions, like for example, Eurasia. And as I already told, in Europe, we have the intention to grant. So there it's already quite far. So we all also have nationalized this patent after we got so it was an international patent which was where we got very good feedback, and we nationalized it also in different other jurisdictions like Canada for sure, US, Australia, New Zealand, so all around the globe basically. And I think this gives us also a big market we can address. So I think markets is your is your expertise, Hugh.
Yeah, happy to jump in. And I think, we could dig into the multiple sclerosis market, which is very large, particularly in North America and Canada. Interestingly enough, one of the highest rates in the world. I think what we want to understand from this is that the multiple sclerosis market is very large. It's growing rapidly, unfortunately, but creates an impressive opportunity for the company. So, and this is on trend with other, let's say, neurodegenerative disorders and autoimmune disorders. So, in terms of growth, significant growth expected over the coming years and decades. Multi-billion-dollar market. And I think important to not just as a large trend, but specifically for our lead product, the cladribine tablet, which is a Merck product. It's a registered trademark under Mavenclad. That product sells over $1 billion globally per year. So our competing sublingual product, which arguably has some advantages in terms of convenience and efficiency of API delivery, is already in a blockbuster market. So I think we're able to really focus on our expertise. This is drug delivery, sublingual drug delivery, repurposing of chemotherapy drugs, and already we're in a billion-dollar market with our first product. So I think it's in terms of leveraging the opportunity. I think we're in a very very attractive position.
So yeah, here's again this the summary of this patent. So we have as I already introduced, we have this patent strategy where we are like we have two options for all of our products, and we have always the platform which is protected. It's also quite long protected. I think the patent is still running 15 years, so we protected it 5 years ago, and also the products are like are freshly protected. So we have like patent protection for almost 20 years now. So and maybe we talked a lot about patent. Maybe we go about this regulatory pathway, because it's also a very interesting point. Because we use APIs which are already registered, which are already used. So our development cycle and our regulatory cycle is much shorter than a normal new developed drug. So we are reformulating drugs. We are not developing drugs. So we're using existing actives, and then we are reformulating them. So we use the existing actives which are registered, which already have their background knowledge about side effects, about bioavailability, and so on. And we reformulate them. And with our reformulation, you have different advantages. So you can use the same drug, and this gives you much higher shorter times for development than and also for the registration pathway.
Yeah, and Wolfgang, I would add to that, just so people understand and can sort of put this in perspective. If you go through, for example, a phase 2 or 3 might be months or
Yeah.
years in duration, whereas our bioequivalent studies are typically 2 to 3 weeks long.
Hmm.
So to put that in perspective, you stack up all of our trial from even the preclinical trials would be, let's say, 2 weeks, maybe 2 to 3 weeks preclinical animal studies. Then we go to a human pilot bioequivalent study, again, 2 to 3 weeks long, and the final stage of our regulatory process, again, only 2 to 3 weeks long. So if you can put that in, if you stack all that up, you're looking at sort of like a couple of months of trials to get all the way from start preclinical to a regulatory dossier to apply for approval. It's really not even comparable to a typical sort of phase 1, 2, preclinical phase 1, 2, 3 pathway. So that's a good point, Wolfgang.
So yeah, but this slide is more where can you find us? So maybe you can talk about
Yeah, sure. So we initially listed on the CSE in Canada. We have a Frankfurt listing. We have quite a following in Germany. I think primarily because the majority of our operations are in Germany, and to date, basically all of our trial work has been in Europe. So we trade on the CSE, BNXT, OTC, BNXTF, and our OTC market listing was fairly recent, and then Frankfurt BXT. And I think you can take a look at our approximate market cap
oh,
there. No, that's okay.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
So
everyone should get out there and take a look.
so
Should
maybe
we
yeah.
jump through?
So
So maybe a little bit of let's go back to the team there. Just a little bit of the history. So myself as a co-founder and CEO, Wolfgang Probst, also co-founder, CEO, Dr. Wagner, who's with us today, head of research and development, and really are sort of the brain behind certainly our IP strategy, which has been really has proven itself to be effective and is growing. Um, Professor Dr. Raymar Lobenberg, also a co-founder. So he is based in Canada and he's the head of Drug Development Center at the University of Alberta, but is a PhD pharmacist from Germany, which has been a great asset to the company. And then Dr. Alexander Zabutkin, our director of business development, is the Ukrainian oncologist who he's an oncologist by background, but has been in the business of manufacturing chemotherapy APIs and is really sort of combining our thin film expertise with his chemotherapy expertise has certainly borne fruit, and it's pretty exciting.
yeah, and the next is our technology partner. So our main technology partner right now, as you already said, is in Munich, and we work, for example, with the Gene Plus, where we have projects going about the development of platforms and also manufacturing of higher amounts for clinical trials. And we also have clinical trial partners for sure. We are outsourcing that. And yeah, I think with that, we are almost running out of time. So maybe we go to the questions.
Sounds good.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much, guys, for the presentation. There are a few questions in. If you any attendants want to ask more, please write them in the chat or the Q&A box. Okay, so you discuss a lot about patent. Some investors, when they look into pharma and techno companies, or mix of both, in this case, what is the path to revenue generating? You just announced a deal. As you say, it's basically a platform. So then many medication could be put on your film and so on and so forth. But what is the exact path to revenue generation?
So I think maybe I'll take that one. I think there's a couple ways to get there. I think the fastest way would be a licensing deal. So let's say hypothetically, if someone like Merck or one of their competitors wanted to, in their case, control their market for another 20 years, or one of their competitors wanted to enter their market with arguably a superior product, we would do a licensing deal. So that would be they're typically cash up front, and that would there there'll be cash stages based on milestones
Yeah.
as we move from, let's say, human studies to regulatory approval, and then some sort of royalty. There's also potentially, an outright purchase of the product. So I think where it would be whether they're buying the patents or the family of patents, or the rights to a single product or all of the derivative products, we're not sure. So there's a couple of ways to get there. Um, and I guess there's always, the potential that we could take it all the way. I think that's realistically not our expertise. Like, are we going to build or even partner with global marketing firms to drive, product adoption and distribution? Are we going to getting into large scale manufacturing? I think those are all obviously there's potential for that, but I think we're probably more a better use of our time is probably developing more products. I'll say
Yeah,
that.
exactly. It requires a different set of skill set for sure. And in that regard, it's the same a bit of tech companies we had presenting today or mining companies. It's one thing to explore, one thing to find deposit, one thing to explore, find
Exactly.
pharmaco solution, something else to put them into
I
production
think
for
that's a
sure.
great analogy. We're like the exploration company that's spending very little money. We're hitting high grade targets. Are we going to build a mine? Probably
Well,
not.
to take back the expression of someone today, there's boring sexy and there's sexy sexy. So I guess you guys on the sexy sexy side.
That's
So
right.
this is quite exciting. That being said, what is your burn rate right now? Are you going to raise some money soon? What's happening in the next 12 to 18 months?
Okay, so in terms of what's happening, we've got a lot of exciting patent news. So that story, I think, is really important in terms of developing and securing value for the company. So patents, and then the other big story is our lead product. So animal results, really in the coming weeks, and that's a large animal study. It'll give us dosing information for the human bioequivalence study. So that's a really important information. And it's from feedback from major pharma. They've said that's what we want to see. We want to see your patents in hand, and we want to see some large animal data. Then we can start having serious conversations. Our burn rate is something we've been managing. So when I came back as CEO a little over a year ago, I think we had 25 plus employees. We've carved that down to about five. No, less than that, sorry. We're down to two or three right now. And everything is basically outsourced. So we've been able to manage our burn rate by focusing on core expertise like Dr. Wagner here and a few others in Germany. And then we have some great partners, particularly based in Munich, who can manage a lot of our R&D. So managing burn through, I think, efficiency and has been really important to us in terms of raising money. I think, we're always spending money. So we're always, I wouldn't say raising money, but we've been extremely fortunate that 100% of our financing since day one has come from a single source at Canaccord in Canada. So we've been able to manage warrant exercises, well, financings, warrant exercises, any sort of like outstanding convertible debt or any of that sort of stuff has been managed, at a single point of contact. So this has been, a blessing for the company, and I don't expect that to change. We've always sort of managed to get from one stage to the next. Exercising warrants in the context of the market and that sort of thing. So, um, that's a bit of a vague answer to sort of no, we're not really raising money, but I guess we always are. So, uh,
That's the point. Again, when a company has only expenses and no revenues, that's also normal. It's something to be expected and
mhm.
not to be ashamed of. The question is the money well spent or not? And then what's your burn rate and are you careful or not? And then if the answers to those are positive, well, then it obviously sends a good message to the market. So there's no bad answers in that.
Okay. Well, I would say I'm pretty confident we can get from A to B to C to D here. And I don't see any changes in terms of, taking money from a third party. We've been very careful. We've been offered money, from people outside of our core group. We've got about 5 or 10 shareholders that have written every check into this company since day one. And I think we'll probably keep it that way, at least for the near
Perfect.
term. Yeah.
All right. Well, that sums it up. So basically, a lot of confidence from the current shareholders of the company looking into more value and more value of the company. That sends a very strong signal for sure. So Hugh and Wolfgang, we thank you very much, you guys, for attending again the IIF. We've been following your story all along. There's news coming out, great news actually. And so we invite all the attendees to keep on following your stories and hopefully seeing more development the next time you guys come along.
Thanks so much,
Yeah.
Julian.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
guys.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.